What does a mediation of commercial dispute look like? This dramatization will help you understand the basic 6-step process in a mediation that will turn any dispute into a win-win situation. I'm Thomas Giglione, commercial mediator and lecturer from the World Mediation Organization. I'm often asked by law students, lawyers, and business people alike the following question: what does a real mediation look like? I have created this dramatization roleplay that I have called the Pizza Viet dispute to answer that question. I will be playing the role of a mediator in a typical landlord and tenant dispute. The Pizza Viet dispute is between a commercial landlord, played by Mr. Huai of Law Pro, being represented by his lawyer, Mr. Tuan of Ant Lawyers, and a prospective tenant played by Ms. Na of Law Pro, represented by her lawyer, Ms. Ha. I have been advised previously in the pre-mediation or intake process that the prospective tenant had agreed to rent the landlord's premises to operate a local franchise of the well-known Pizza Viet restaurant chain. The lease provides for a payment of 40 million VND per month. That's about 2,000 USD plus 3% of gross sales for a 5-year period. After the landlord made 100 million VND, about $5,000 in modifications, and the tenant moved in boxes of equipment, the news broke out that the Pizza Viet chain had filed for bankruptcy. The prospective tenant called the landlord to cancel the lease. The landlord responded with a letter demanding the tenant either perform the lease or pay 900 VND or approximately 5,000 USD damages. In stage 1, the mediator's opening statement. During this stage, the mediator establishes rapport with the parties. I'm your mediator today, and I understand today's dispute involves a landlord-tenant dispute. Now, did you get a copy of the mediation agreement I sent you? Confirms the parties have signed a mediation agreement. All right, so I'm going to need his signature for that. So that way we can proceed with the mediation. Mediator explains confidentiality, gives overview of the mediation process. Thank you very much for coming here today and having an opportunity to resolve this dispute in an amicable way. Basically, I want to tell you a little bit about the mediation today. We want to look at what is the best solution for everyone here, so that way we can resolve this. And the possible use of a caucus or a meeting in private. The mediator sets the ground rules, no name calling, and treat each other with mutual respect. Mediator is always asking open-ended questions. For example, okay, Ms. Ha, you had an opportunity to listen to the lawyer representing the landlord. Is there anything you'd like to comment or tell me the background with regards to your client, Ms. Na?
Okay.
The mediator explains the purpose, the role of the mediator. Explains that he's not going to take sides. For example, remember, I have no duty to impose a solution. I'm here to mediate as a neutral party. Stage 2, the parties tell their stories. During this stage, the mediator listens to each party and identifies the concerns, actively listens and asks, would you be willing to describe the situation from your point of view? He changed the locks?
Yeah, he changed all the locks. That's right. We're not moving.
Did your client change the locks for the premises?
Yes.
Ms. Ha, can you tell me a little bit, why is it that you're concerned about the locks? Clarifies with questions and asks questions in a neutral way. So let me understand what you're saying. Basically, your client entered in a lease and tenant agreement with your client, made some improvements to the building, uses notes, paraphrases stories, and checks to be sure the concerns are identified. Is there anything else else you'd like to add?
Yes, the other thing around is actually, you know, from very beginning, when my client see you that she really want to start her own business, and he really hope that it will be successful business for her for a long time. But unfortunately, it's bankrupt by the Pizza Viet. So that's why she's forced to terminate the contract with you earlier than expected. I think that there's no obligation to pay any penalty for that.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Ms. Ha. Mr. Tuan, do you want to say anything in rebuttal to what Ms. Ha said?
Well, the reason we are locking the equipment for the security purposes that we said earlier, and for the money we spend, that's the money we invested.
So what you're saying, sir, is you want to terminate the agreement and get your damages. Is that what you're saying?
We could continue the agreement.
He reframes attacks, acknowledges feelings, and helps determine and identify underlying issues. Translates positions into interests and validates each party's efforts. Well, I appreciate your positive attitude towards this, and I know there's a lot of emotion involved with this. So if we could set aside the emotion and just deal with the facts and let each party speak, have a turn to speak, and try not to interrupt each other. He ensures that each party has a chance to speak, never dominating the session, maintaining the balance of power. Mediator handles interruptions politely and firmly, like this. Yeah. Okay, we can
The deadline was yesterday.
Okay. Well, sir, we'll just let give you your turn, and then we'll have you speak. Okay. Okay. Is there anything else? Okay, sir. You will have an opportunity. 1 minute. Ms. Ha, is there anything else you'd like? He then thanks each party for their contribution and gives an opportunity for the disputants to give their side of their story, as this example. Okay, now I want to give your clients an opportunity to tell their side of the story. Is that all right? Can your clients speak on their behalf? Sir, your lawyer your representative had an opportunity to speak first. Would you mind, Mr. Tuan, Mr. Huai, if Ms. Na speaks first? Ms. Na, can you tell us a little bit about what happened in your situation? All right, Ms. Na, you had an opportunity to speak. This is your opportunity, Mr. Huai.
Okay, I disagree all the opinions, before that.
Stage 3. The mediator identifies and frames issues. Sets the agenda by summarizing areas of agreement and disagreement and stating the issues to be resolved in a neutral way. He helps the disputants state what is important and hear each other's perceptions. Is the equipment used or is it new?
That is used. That is was used.
Oh.
And now my house and now we stay home.
All the
So I
laws.
think it's if Mr. Michael maybe I can.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Na. So what you're saying also is that you basically you want to stay with Pizza Viet, but you don't have that option, and you feel like a victim in this situation, and you want to continue with Pizza Viet, but as you know, you cannot continue with Pizza Viet. And you borrowed some money for this venture. How much money did you borrow? $1 million for this. I see. All right. Is there anything else you'd like? It's important to take good notes.
Okay. How much? The other
Because they'll be discussed as a reference for reaching an agreement. Mediator suggests a caucus, if appropriate, and explains the confidentiality rules in a caucus. Remember that anything that's said in the caucus will be held in confidence unless you disclose otherwise that you want me to disclose it to the other side. Are you open to the idea of meeting in private? In stage 4, the mediator assists in generating alternatives and considers a variety of options. Mediator keeps focus on the needs and interests, moves parties to other issues, restates and summarizes each alternative, uses a variety of techniques for generating a list of possible options. Okay, we can't talk about pizza yet because that's not an option for you. But I understand you won an award for your Vietnamese cooking. Are you open to that idea? Maybe another option that might be available for you. Okay, sir. What I'd like to do is speak to your client and think about a structure that you could offer the other side, Ms. Na, Ms. Ha, today. What kind of a rental agreement, what gross sales that you're willing to offer. Identifying underlying issues and fears. Please watch. Why are you afraid? What is it that you're afraid about? What are you afraid about? What is your client concerned about?
Actually, she has no experience with the Vietnamese cook restaurant business. And the second thing is she's lacking of capital for another investment.
You're worried that you're not going to have enough income because it's not a good name. It's not a well-known name. And watch. You're saying is you want to, maybe we could structure the rent scaling. For example, we could structure the rent where it's a lower, something more comfortable, and as your business grows, we could escalate the rent.
Okay.
Would you be open to something like that? Yeah. Can we propose something like that? Reminds parties of existing areas of agreement. Sir, you're not understanding me. She cannot pay 40 million. She's starting a business under her own name, not Pizza Viet. She's going to have a difficult time. What we need to do is meet in private with both sides. If you don't mind, I could meet with the tenant's lawyer and the tenant in a caucus, private caucus, and then we'll invite you. I'd like to speak to you in private, if that's okay. Remember that anything that's said in the caucus will be held in confidence. Do you want me to disclose to the other side that you have another offer?
Do you want them to know that we have other...
Or do you want to tell them yourself? In stage 5, the mediator encourages parties to select alternatives. During this stage, the mediator helps parties move toward agreement by considering the options generated and selecting those most workable. Encourages selection of alternatives which appear acceptable to both parties. Mr. White, are you willing to reduce the rent to help Ms. Na start her business for a short period of time? Maybe perhaps 18 months, first 18 months.
Yes.
You can?
Yes.
Okay. Now, sorry, Mr. Tuan, there's another offer that you have. Can you tell me about that, Mr. Tuan? Encourages the parties to prioritize issues so that they can compromise or offer a trade-off. Checks workability, ask about specific details. Who, what, when, where, and how. And watch. 15 million. So you're paying 40 million a month. That's a lot of money.
Yes.
Yeah. But what if, Mr. High could maybe... What if we structured the lease agreement so it's more comfortable for you under your own name? Would you be open to that? Yeah. Do you think the other side will be open to that idea? Assist parties in planning implementation of agreement. Several months or something like that. Would you be agreeable to something like that?
All right, let me say first, we demanded 900 million within 10 days for the reason we sympathetic.
But Mr. Tuan, you agree that's for the termination of the agreement. What I'm suggesting to you, Mr. Tuan, is forget about the termination of the agreement. Can we continue with the agreement?
Sure.
Under different terms.
She pays 40 million per month.
Notes the progress of the parties, that they've made a positive statements, and review and summarize the progress. Like this. Well, I have some good news for you. Mr. Tuan, Mr. Pai met in caucus, and they also said that I could disclose what was discussed in the session. They are open to the idea to continue the relationship, the agreement with you. In stage 6, mediator assists in writing the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, and ends the mediation. During this stage, the mediator uses their notes to write down a clear and detailed MOU. The parties review the agreement with their lawyers and sign it. If parties do not reach agreement, the mediator summarizes the issues and any progress made. Then the mediator thanks the parties and ends the mediation session, congratulates both parties on their efforts, whether or not they reached an agreement. If no agreement is reached, they remind the parties of their BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement. A BATNA is not a safety net or a threat, but is used as leverage. Remember, in any negotiations, if negotiations fail and agreement cannot be reached, you can simply walk away.
Well, it looks like we have an agreement here, so I invite Ms. Ha and Mr. Tuan to correspond and to draw the memorandum of understanding for today's agreement. I see that today that we see some development and in reaching an agreement. I thank you again for coming to an agreement. Congratulations, sir. Sir, thank you very much.